right, Markus, welcome to the BlockHash podcast live. How you doing?
Good. Hi, Brandon. Great to see you. Happy to chat. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing very good. Where are you from?
Actually, I'm from Germany, currently in Germany and based in Berlin.
Ah, so you're German.
Yes.
How long have you been in Germany for? Did you grow up there or do you just work there?
Yes. Grew up in Germany. When I started working on Celo, we started actually in San Francisco, but spent most of my career before that in Germany. And then early on, we decided to also open up an office in Berlin. Berlin is a really cool city. A lot is going on in crypto in Berlin. A lot of blockchain projects start in Berlin. A lot of developers are in Berlin. It's an interesting city. It was a divided city with different currencies and a wall that divided it. And therefore, I think today blockchain technology likes the history, also likes the creative scene in Berlin, and therefore it feels good to be here.
Yeah, I remember going to Berlin about 4 years ago, and they had a bunch of crypto conferences and stuff like that. And they seem to be one of the first countries to really move on crypto and start trying to legislate it or at least put out some kind of guidance in terms of how it could be used, at least within Germany. I think Germany and Switzerland, too, I think they were the first countries in Europe to do it.
Yeah, true. And Europe in general tries to find a European-wide stance on crypto. For example, the markets in crypto asset regulations or short MiCA is around the corner, so that it's like a more common approach for all of Europe. But Berlin is a open city, open for everyone, very diverse city, and a lot of developers are in Berlin. So the blockchain scene came early on. Also in Germany, I think banks are allowed to hold crypto and custody crypto for quite some time now. Not many banks make use of it, but the scene is still there.
Yeah, is there any type of like regulation or guidance in Germany right now around crypto and how it can be used or anything like that?
It's a lot is still unclear. Banks can actually hold and custody crypto for their users. Of course, there's strict guidance and regulation around all the KYC, AML things that, for example, exchanges have to work with, especially on stablecoin. There are some things in the works, and we as an industry really hope that here Germany will work together with the European Commission, with Europe, to under MiCA to be a environment that is still friendly for innovation. Currently, the regulation for stablecoins, for example, is around a e-money regulation, but I guess within MiCA this will change again. And the interesting thing is, we were chatting with the European Commission. Actually, the regulator is now quite aware that there are big differences between more decentralized approaches and centralized approaches. For example, they see fiat-backed stablecoins as a centralized approach, since it has a central element, a bank that is holding fiat, and therefore maybe also an entity that needs to be regulated in some form to make sure that the collateral is actually there. And seeing decentralized stablecoins, for example, algorithmic stablecoins, as a much better approach, since they then can regulate the code or at least audit the code instead of the bank that is holding the collateral, which also makes their life easier. So I really like this this notion that in Europe they are more open for decentralized approaches, and this is of course also great for Celo, being fully decentralized, being fully permissionless and open for everyone.
Well, it's good. I'm glad for Europe. I mean, the U.S. it doesn't seem like we're going that direction. If we get some new legislation passed, I mean, there's a bunch of stuff being pushed in Congress, and they're trying to even make stable coins illegal. And it's this whole push for a CBDC through the Federal Reserve, and they're trying to. They've already given them authorization to do so, and they do so in this bill. I think that's a huge reason why. Have you looked at it at all? Do you have any thoughts on that bill and how that could impact, maybe at least in the States, crypto innovation, and maybe that could drive it potentially elsewhere, maybe back into Europe? Any thoughts along those lines?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an expert here, but and only looked at it like on a very high level. But yeah, I would fully agree with your thought that it's not very friendly or innovation friendly, the bill in general. It's also, it doesn't differentiate in too much in like centralized and decentralized approaches, which probably after a bill like this would go into effect would probably again raise many questions. What happens with like fully decentralized networks and so on. So yeah, I really hope that this will be improved going forward, because yeah, I actually can see that this drives crypto to or the industry at least to other countries. Since I mean the industry is global, the use cases are global. Developers can actually sit anywhere and work on it. So I don't think that would be the best thing for the US, for the industry.
Yeah, I don't think it'd be the best for the industry, at least, in terms of doing any kind of innovation around crypto or blockchain in the States. If they pass something like this, I think it's a little too radical. There's a lot of things in there that don't
Yeah.
make sense. And I think it's going to get highly amended before it gets passed. If it ever gets passed, and nothing ever does really get passed in Congress, unless it's some huge bipartisan push. So I'm not overly worried about it, but it's a little concerning that senators and congressmen and women, think that way.
And I think a lot of these like stricter regulation we now see is that people are just like still insecure or unsure what this technology can actually do, where the potential benefits of this technology are, and because of lack in knowledge on this technology, I think sometimes people first go a much stricter or much harder way, also in terms of regulation. We are, for example, on the whole topic on CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. There's a nice conference next week together with Forbes and Celo, talking about central bank digital currencies, and with different regulators, also with different NGOs and central banks, because the interest also from that side is there, and I think also the crypto world can actually benefit from it, when like the two worlds, the central banks and the crypto world, or the blockchain world, the fully decentralized world, talk to each other, because in the end, also for central banks, considering a public ledger is a huge opportunity in terms of immediately adopting something that would be interoperable with so many other things. And for example, on Celo, we focus a lot on interoperability with other networks, other blockchains, to make it like the most open, the most interoperable, the fastest and the cheapest network to send transactions. And a central bank can actually make use of it, because it's permissionless. So also a central bank would be permissioned to build something on top of Celo.
Yeah, it's very beneficial for central banks. I'm questioning whether or not it'll be good or bad in the end, but it'll definitely be good for them, and it'll create a lot of interesting new avenues in finance. And I want to talk about Celo, but before we do, tell me a little bit more about your background and your prior work. How did you go from wherever you were before into crypto and blockchain and being in this crazy world?
Yeah, happy to. Actually, I'm an economist, so I did my research in university, in training. I did in economics. I did a PhD in economics. Worked in research at different universities for some time, and then went first into traditional finance. Worked in asset management and investment banking as a portfolio manager, managing basically traditional funds. And then I was chatting with a very good friend, and he told me about the potential of blockchain technology to build a more open and inclusive financial system. And I like this approach a lot, and I looked more into it. It was now more than 4 years ago, when this friend told me about it. And this good friend, René, he also told me that they are starting a project called Celo that has the mission to build a more open and inclusive financial system that creates conditions for prosperity for everyone. And that, of course, when starting this project, Celo, we need a lot of skilled developers, but we also need some economists. And this is basically where I found my role, looking into platform economics, looking into token economics, looking into different stablecoin designs, doing research there, and therefore, working on Celo now for 4 years. And still very, very excited to be in this industry, to be part of this great community, and to work on this great technology.
Yeah, explain Celo a little bit more to me. Like, what are you guys aiming to do? What's the goal? What's the mission? What's the end idea?
Yeah, I'm happy to. So the mission of Celo is to build a financial system that creates conditions for prosperity for everyone. So something that is more inclusive and more people can make use of. And when we look at blockchain technology, I think the whole industry knows how powerful it is. However, sometimes it's complicated to use for non-crypto natives or non-experts. Assets that are living on blockchains are very volatile, and therefore there are some barriers that led to lower adoption so far, and we actually want to change that. And when we talk about Celo, we usually talk about three things: mobile, open, and real. And mobile means Celo is a mobile-first blockchain. You can start sending, spending, earning crypto from your mobile right away. Therefore, the Celo blockchain as a layer 1 protocol supports ultra-light clients like simple mobile phones. And today, by just knowing, for example, your phone number, I can send you a Celo dollar or a Celo euro. It will arrive within 5 seconds. That's the block time of the Celo blockchain. The transaction fees will be super low, and I can even pay the gas fees in the same currency. So if I send you Celo euro, because you're in Europe, then I can pay in Celo euro for gas. And if I would send you Celo dollar, I can pay for gas in Celo dollar. And then the second part, the open part, is Celo is fully open source and permissionless. So everyone can build decentralized apps. And on top of Celo, it's a proof of stake blockchain on docs.celo.org. Everyone can have a look at how the blockchain works. I already said it's a proof of stake network, and with this open source approach, we are now want to engage more and more developers that build their solutions on top of Celo. If they, for example, want to build something in the DeFi space that is mobile first, then because there are 8 billion smartphones in the world out there, then they should build it on Celo, because it is optimized for mobile, and therefore it's great that we now already have active developers in more than 113 countries of the world. So the ecosystem on Celo currently is growing very fast. And then the last part, real. Celo in the end is built for real use cases, like payments, remittances, borrowing, lending, and all these features being mobile first, being very easy to use, being very fast, very scalable, enables like remittances, for example. And then some nice side features are that Celo is fully carbon negative, so it's also good for the environment, and something where we want to do more and more research and create more and more interest for developers, or incentives for developers to build nice features. Yeah, that's Celo.
Nice. There's a lot of stuff there. I have a few questions. When you say carbon negative, how does Celo achieve that?
So it's achieved on different levels. The first level is basically proof of stake is less carbon intense than proof of work. It needs less computing power. The second level is basically on a blockchain level, on the governance level. There is a offset of carbon emissions that is currently financed by block rewards. So basically, with every block rewards, carbon emissions are offset. We're currently working, for example, with Project REN, that in the end, for block rewards, plants trees. But we want to do many more things. And actually, the idea behind Celo is also to really innovate on money. And one thing that we really could see in the near future would be nature-backed currencies. One of the Celo founders, Sepp Kamwa, he and Charles Eisenstein in Sacred Economics both tell the story about when gold-backed money, people tended to mint gold because it's like printing money. So if we would be able with this technology to back a currency with nature, people would attribute higher values to a tree or something that backs money. And therefore, we have an open request for proposals that people can get a grant if they develop something on Celo to tokenize trees, for example. We are in the process of adding also tokenized carbon credit built by the Moss project to the Celo reserve. So a lot of projects that also go into that direction. With a open platform like this, you can set the right incentives that are good for the environment.
Yeah, you said tokenized trees. How do you tokenize a tree?
And in the end, for example, the whole NFT movement we've seen in the past. Also on Celo, many of the NFT projects that build on Celo are coming from the creative space, from the art space, which is great. It's absolutely great that the creative space can make use of this technology. But I think this is just the start. NFTs could also be a tree, a tokenized tree.
Yeah, that's true.
Because or anything else. It could also be a clean air or clean water or anything we would like to see more of. And there are first projects that maybe either buy up land and want to plant trees, and maybe have a token economic system in place that basically creates the incentives to also for others to help with that, to plant more trees, for example. And the nice thing about tokenization is on a blockchain like Celo that makes transactions very cheap, very fast, and very easy. You can make these things more and easier, like transferable and tradable. So, for example, carbon credit is something that already exists in different ways. It is already either securitized or tokenized. And with like tokenization on a blockchain, you make it more accessible and easier to transfer. So, for example, you could think of carbon credit that lives on the Vera registry, and then there's a project that buys up some of these carbon credits, puts it into a pool, issues a token against this pool, and therefore gives more people access to carbon credits. And the same could be done for trees, which would be great.
Yeah, that would be cool. It would be cool if you could tokenize a tree or make an NFT of a tree to promote, trees or maybe replanting trees or something along those lines. That'd be pretty cool. And it's a great way to raise money. I've seen people raise all kinds of crazy dollars using NFTs. The craze nowadays is ridiculous.
Yeah, and I mean with these assets, you can like in the end build so many things on Celo. So for example, adding carbon credit or tokenized carbon credit in form of the Celo MOS token to the Celo reserve is a first step. You could like imagine very soon to have stable coins living on Celo that are fully backed by trees, and issuing more stable coins or more demand for stable coins would then lead to more demand for trees and give trees higher value, and people would need to plant trees to create money, which would be a very interesting approach. And in general, I mean, having a platform that is that allows you to also that not only makes transfers very easy and fast and efficient, but also makes the use of the tokens on the platform very easy and accessible, allows you to innovate in many more directions. You could imagine also local currencies on Celo. So far, next to the two global stable coins on Celo, the Celo dollar and the Celo euro, we see many projects in different markets that issue local currencies on Celo. Next to the Celo euro, there's also a Celo West African franc. So we see more and more currencies also emerging on Celo, and this is a great development, and therefore, yeah, I'm happy to see that the community is really excited to build these things.
Yeah, it seems very exciting. I mean, I want a tree-backed currency like Pine Token or something like that would be pretty cool.
Exactly.
As a platform, Celo as a platform, how does that stack up with, other popular existing blockchains and places to build dApps and applications and stuff like that, like Ethereum, Cardano, Solana is incredibly popular right now. How do you feel Celo fits in that niche?
So I think Celo as a platform is a mobile first platform. So if you want to build a dApp, and if you want to build it for mobile as a mobile developer, you should consider Celo as a blockchain, because it's optimized. It has a identity solution. It is transactions are much lighter than in any other blockchains. A transfer on Celo needs 700,000 times less data than other platforms. Block time is 5 seconds, so it is a very fast finality of payments on Celo. And you can see that Celo really is optimized for transactions that after mainnet launch, we went to, I think after a few months, we went to 1 million transactions, and then had, after a few more months, 12 million transactions, which was more than, for example, Cosmos, Polkadot, and Near. And if you look at it today, we add 1 million transaction, I think, per week or so. So we are now at 30 million transactions, or close to 30 million transactions. This really shows that Celo is optimized for many transactions. Celo is a fork of Ethereum Gas. So if you're a Ethereum developer, then you can easily also build on Celo, because also the smart contract language on Celo is also Solidity. So everything should look and feel very familiar. And the nice thing about Celo is we've invested a lot into interoperability over the last year. cLabs partnered with the Suma team around James Presswich, and a larger team that developed an interoperability protocol called Optics that standardizes communication from Celo to other EVM compatible chains. And now this leads to the development of a lot of bridges from different blockchains to Celo. And then, as basically in the recent weeks, there was the announcement of DeFi for the People, a large DeFi initiative on Celo that was kicked off, that basically many different decentralized exchanges now also deploy on Celo. I think we already saw the first decentralized exchanges deploying on Celo, and going forward, you see many more. To also create a lot of liquidity to be able to fulfill on this mission of financial inclusion with much higher liquidities. So if you're active in the DeFi space, and if you like to farm yields, or if you like to lend and borrow, you should also consider Celo. Because of low block times and very low gas fees, it makes also farming, for example, super efficient on your mobile phone.
Got it. Let me ask you, why have a mobile first approach? Is it because so many people have a smartphone in their hands, throughout the world, more than they do an actual computer? Or is it a more specific, idea?
Yeah, so it's the first thing is, if you want to really grow to huge adoption, I think the way is mobile. There are, as I said, 8 billion smartphones in the world already. And if you look at, for example, the Ericsson Mobility Report, which says this number, 8 billion smartphones and 6 billion smartphone users around the world, it also shows you that that connectivity is getting better and better worldwide. I think that is a first very good reason. If you want to have broad adoption, many people have access to a smartphone, even in countries where they don't maybe have access to a bank or access to a stable currency. So I think that is the first reason to have broader, or to be more inclusive and broader adoption. The second reason is developing also dApps on Celo for smartphone forces you to really focus on the most important things and to make it really usable. And I think if you then go from a mobile first dApp to a web-based dApp, then you can still build functionality and add functionality, but it really forces you to focus on mobile. Another reason is, for example, as I told you, in the Valora app, which is a wallet native to Celo that allows you to send, for example, Celo dollar and Celo euro, it allows you to send it to anyone in your phone book. And actually, therefore, Celo has an identity solution that connects to your phone book, and connecting these millions and millions of phone books of these billions of smartphones is basically creating a huge social network where you then can think about even more interesting features, like building other trust features into that. Maybe in a certain community, the people who are in your phone book have a higher initial trust score, or things like that. So it enables interesting things. And having that identity feature, for example, also enables something like universal basic income. Impact Market, for example, is a project that builds mobile first universal basic income on Celo, and is active in many regions of the world already, where people maybe don't have access to a powerful computer, but access to a smartphone. And then, of course, also people who want to be in the DeFi space sometimes are on the road and want to see what happens in their farms and so on. And therefore, also the mobile feature helps. And mobile phones become recently more and more secure as well, which also helps with, for example, KYC features and others that can be built for mobile.
Yeah, the crazy thing to think about is, of all the blockchain applications that have been created that have led to DeFi and NFTs and all these crazy things that we have today, it's like I have two phones, but I don't understand why we haven't had a whole bunch of dApps built like applications for your phone yet. I hope that's the direction we're eventually going. I want to be able to use a decentralized, like Uber, for example, or a decentralized Airbnb type of app on my phone. I get the use cases through the computer and stuff, and through your browser and being able to do stuff from that perspective. But I really think the future of decentralized applications, it's on the phone. It's no different than, when you download apps from the App Store or Android Store. I'm just surprised we haven't gotten that far yet, and I feel like that's the direction it has to go. Maybe you agree, being a mobile first, taking a mobile first approach with Celo, and maybe that's the direction you guys are going too. Who knows, right?
Yeah, and I mean, if you're a developer out there and want to build something for mobile adoption, then, for example, check out Celo.org. There are a billion different ways how you can learn about Celo. Of course, there's the docs page. There's also ways how to get funding if you want to build something interesting on top of Celo. There's a very active community around Celo, for example, also on Discord, if you go to chat.celo.org. So if you consider to build something for mobile, check out Celo. The nice thing is it already has so many features that makes it easy to, for example, connect users that have a mobile phone with this phone number link that links a hash of the phone number to a public wallet address. It also allows for ultra fast sync for ultra light clients, so you don't always have to sync with a full node. You have the light client support, and I think this enables all these applications hopefully in the future. And I think the way to go is to do all this in an open source way, so that all the developers out there can make use of these features and build their dApps on top of Celo.
Where should people go if they want to learn more about Celo or how to use it or how to build on it? Should they just go to the website? Is there a blog, a Medium? Should they go into the community? Is there a Discord or a Telegram?
Yeah, so the website is a good start. On Celo.org, you find a section for developers. You find a section about the community, the ecosystem. Of course, Discord on chat.celo.org is also great, because you can connect with so many different developers. There's a Celo bootcamp, and people can check that out. There's a bootcamp that runs again and again, where people can learn how to develop on Celo. There's also a Medium blog of Celo that is basically medium.com/Celo.org, where you can also find a bunch of recent developments. So there are actually tons of different ways how to connect. Currently, and there's a team working on optics, that builds interoperability, that you can also reach, for example, on Discord if you want to build something there. Check it out. There's also the Celo Foundation that gives grants. So if you have a interesting idea of a project you would like to build on top of Celo, you can go to the website and check out the grant kit that actually explains everything you need to know to get a grant if you build something interesting on top of Celo.
Perfect. Awesome. I think that's a good place to wrap up. Covered a ton of stuff. Markus, thank you for taking the time to come on the podcast and share all this information on Celo with my audience and to help enlighten them on what you guys are doing. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for your time. Thanks for the conversation. Really, really interesting to chat with you. Exciting.
Absolutely. Likewise. Hopefully we'll chat again in the future.
Yeah, hopefully. Thanks.
Yeah, take care. See you next time.
Talk soon. Cheers. Bye.